Dear chess friends, we have a new world champion in chess, but of course not in human chess. Still, the World Chess Championship match between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Ding Liren is going on. But in the computer chess world, we know the winner of the TCEC season 24, and it's of course the Stockfish engine. The LCZero fanboy club, I know they're a little bit sad, but they'll have to wait for another win like Arsenal London, probably in the next season. Maybe they can make something happen, but this season for them is over. So let's see now one beautiful game here played by Stockfish here against LCZero. It was, I think, a beautiful, sharp tactical game in the Taimanov Sicilian. The Taimanov Sicilian is, I think, popular among beginners, so that's why I think it's a cool win, but also an instructive game in this type of structure. So let's see now the game. For Stockfish with the white pieces opened with the move e4, and the result, the current result as I'm recording this video, is +4 for Stockfish. So only 2 more games have to be played, so there's no way, of course, that Leela can catch up with the Stockfish engine anymore. So after move e4, c5, knight to f3, we have the Sicilian. Now we have the French Sicilian. After d4, c takes d4, knight to d4, knight to c6 comes now, and it's of course now the so-called Taimanov variation of the Sicilian defense. And the Taimanov is perfectly fine. We are delaying here the situation many times after move knight to c3. The main positional goal of blacks is to go with bishop to b4, attack the knight that's controlling the e4 square, and then hit the center with knight to f6, or maybe with the move d5. So in the game we have knight to f6 by Leela. Stockfish played g3 if we had the variation. We have queen to b6 attacking now the pawn, and now the knight, pardon me, and now after move knight to b3 we have now this kind of a maneuver. Both of these knights are good defenders here on the queen side. So in the game we have d6 by LCZero, creating this Scheveningen pawn structure, this mobile pawn structure with d5 or e5 possibilities in the later stage of the game. It's of course not the best method. Probably the best line here for black is to play the move bishop to b4, attacking of course here the knight on c3, which is controlling for the e4 square. Then after something like bishop to g2, the game continues after bishop to c3, b takes c3, and I think white is also a good continuation here with the beautiful bishop here, but at least black provoked some structural weaknesses. At least black created some weak squares, weak pawns, for instance. These are clear targets, I think, now in white's position. So after move knight to b3, the last move that was prearranged by the organizer was now the move d6. From this point on, the engines are calculating the position for themselves. So in the game, bishop to f4, Stockfish hits the pawn on d6 immediately. We have now an amazing idea here by Leela, h5. Very nice counterattack, because if you play, for instance, bishop to d6 immediately, then you have this one. Knight to g4 comes with a beautiful attack against the pawn on f2. You can maybe play something like queen to d2, protecting now the pawn on f2, but look at this, with bishop to d6 first to get deflected here, and you can maybe try, of course, h3, because if you take, then you lose the battle here around the square f2 if you pick up the bishop on d6. So that's why, in order to stay in the game, you have to play something like h3, but now the tricky part is this line, knight to e3 after something like queen to e3, queen to e3, f takes e3, bishop to e3. Now I think black should be much better with the beautiful bishop pair, with the endangered king in the center of the board. Castling, of course, is an opportunity. Maybe include somehow also this bishop into the game. a6, b5 are opportunities. So this is not a good game for white anymore. So that's why bishop to e2, protecting now the g4 square. Now there is this serious threat of bishop to d6. So that's why knight to e5, cutting off this long diagonal for the dark square bishop. We have bishop to e3, attacking the queen, queen to c7, and now f4, kicking away now this knight from this annoying square here on e5. So in the game, knight from e to d7. If you try something like knight to g4, then actually after bishop to g1, it's not a good position anymore for black. I've analyzed this line at home. It seemed to me like a logical move. Maybe attack the bishop further, but look at this. After bishop to g1, white is going to play queen to d2, queenside castling, h3. In one moment, you have to step back, and suddenly both of your knights on h6 and also on f6 would be simply out of game. So that's why you have to bring your knight on another square. So that's why knight from e to d7 really makes more sense. Of course, also knight to c4 is not so good, because the queen is a little bit overloaded to the defense of the knight on c4. So that's why you could have a huge tactical problems after potential knight to c4, knight to d6, maybe even knight to c7 in some lines could be very dangerous here for black. So that's why after move f4, as we said, knight to d7, bishop to f3, liberating now in some lines maybe the long diagonal for the light square bishop with the aggressive method e5. We have now a6 preventing the move knight to b5 here for white, and now after queen to e2, finally Stockfish 15 is preparing queenside castling. Like in the common Sicilian, white will attack the king side, and of course black will simply try a flank attack here on the queen side. So after move rook to b8 by Leela, Stockfish plays bishop to a7, attacking the rook, steps back to an f2 on a better square, because now we want to play h3 g4 here on this side of the board. We have now rook to b8. Again, Leela LCZero wants to play the same plan. We have now a4 preventing the move b5, and now after move b6, finally queenside castling here by Stockfish. So bishop to e7, king to b1, getting out of the c file, knight to c5. Here Leela is hoping that maybe Stockfish takes the knight on c5. Then of course after b takes c5, the b file could be open. There could be now some dangerous tactics, maybe queen to b7 and some more stuff. So that's why Stockfish keeps it now the tension around the square c5, doesn't want to of course improve some files here for black. So in the game, Stockfish continues with rook to g1. It's trying h3 g4, expanding here on the king side. We have e5, which is a strange idea, but it's quite sort of a must move here for black. Black has to now make a reaction here in the center of the board, because the pawn storm is coming. At least you're battling for the f4 square, because if h3 g4 happens, then you, in some lines you could play maybe even e takes f4. If you castle maybe king side here, then I think dangerous position is already this move h3. Look at this with g4. You're basically running into a white's attack here. So in my opinion, e5 really made sense. So a good choice here by Leela to block out now the center of the board. But of course the downside a little bit here for black is that you have left now a weak square in the position. After move knight to d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5. We have now bishop to f5. Look at this. Leela is coming now also dangerously into the game, just trying a beautiful attack against this weak pawn on c2. We have now g4, bishop to h7, and after knight to d2, we have now a beautiful idea here by Stockfish. Stockfish is trying to reroute the knight on c4, and it's in some lines trying f takes e5. And then maybe in some lines, if for instance you play d takes e5, to let the pawn roll here on the d file with the support of the rook. So this is now a certain sort of a tactical idea, because we have to say it, Leela stayed now a little bit too long with the king in the center, so Stockfish is trying now to use this moment and maybe open some files, open some diagonals, include more pieces against this centralized king. So in the game, e takes f4. For instance, if you play kingside castling now again, I think this could be very dangerous. As I said, f takes e5, d takes e5. Look at this. How are you going to defend this position? You have to play a certain blockade here with the move bishop to d6, but now look at this. We pick up the knight. You can maybe open now the b file, but look at this. With bishop to e4, bishop to e4, queen to e4, this knight is much better than this bishop on d6. The knight is controlling also the b2. The files are open, so this is now game over, I think. Here for black, the bishop is just a part of the pawn chain. It's just a big pawn. Look at this, how bad really this bishop would be in the continuation of the game. So black needs to be careful also, not only in a tactical way. Black needs to be also careful of this strategic trades of pieces. So after move knight to d2, e takes f4, we have g takes h5. Good choice here by Stockfish, finally opening every potential file that could be useful. Now the g file is open, e file is open, king still stuck in the center. Even if you castle, you're getting destroyed probably with the move h6. So now Leela is feeling really pressured here by this beautiful activity of Stockfish. So in the game, king to f8, Leela found this maneuver to secure the king. We have bishop to d4, bishop to f6, and after bishop to f6, g takes f6. Okay, this is not the optimal position for black, of course, but at least you can survive for a while with your king on f8. Of course, all of these pawns are weaknesses, but in order to make something happen, you have to attack it somehow. Still, of course, I wouldn't really not underestimate also black's chances here, especially on the c file, especially around the square c2. So in the game, queen to c4, Stockfish plays a pin against this knight. It's not allowing here some ideas of knight takes a4. Then of course the queen is hanging. That's why b5, queen to c3. Now Leela gets out of the attack, and now after queen to d4, we have now b takes a4. Here Leela finally opened also now the b file and is trying now this very annoying move a3. What to do here? Stockfish finds, I think, really, again, a beautiful idea. Simply continues with his own plan, plays now the move knight to c4, attacks now the pawn on d6. Leela has to play now knight to d7, because if you play something like rook to b4 here, attacking the knight on c4, then you get this one, queen to f4, and you will probably lose also the pawn on d6 now, so it's not working. So Leela played the only move here. Let's go back. After move knight to c4, played knight to d7, and after queen to f4, knight to e5, suddenly Leela creates this nice blocking system, creates not really this nice compact position in front of the king. But of course, it's not so easy to defend everything. The king is still stuck here on this annoying square f8. So we have bishop to e2, we have a3 here by Leela c0, we have rook to f1, we have bishop to c2. Very, very dangerous idea here by Leela c0, but I've also searched for different opportunities. Basically, there's not so much that can be done. This check that's coming here on h6, you cannot prevent it. Even if you try, I don't know, maybe something like knight to c4. Look at this, bishop to c4. You play a check here against the pawn on g2. b2, pardon me, here after move king to a1. You can even pick up this one, but now the fun is over. Queen to b6, queen to g3 is going to happen, with some ideas to play queen to b7 here. If you get on the e file, this other rook is coming into the game. You can maybe survive with rook to h7, but now after rook to e1, I'm not seeing good ways how we're going to protect the g8 square. So it's again game over here for black. So you see, after rook to f1, Stockfish included now all of the pieces in the attack, but it seemed to me that black has really something here on the queen side, but no, Stockfish calculated this in a good way. Look at this. After bishop to c2, king to c2, we have now knight to c4, bishop to c4. Leela plays now the move rook to b2, but now comes the tricky part. Stockfish goes with the king to d3, and this is the way to go. If you play king to c1, then queen to b6 is coming in. This is actually a draw, because black in some lines can play at least a perpetual check, so this is not working here for white. So that's why king to d3, the excellent move here by Stockfish. The king stays in the center, but actually you cannot deliver any good checks here by your pieces against white's king. So white king is perfectly fine here now with this heavy artillery. Basically black is getting destroyed here on the king side. Rook to h5, we have h4, a2, we have queen to g4, trying of course a checkmate. We have a rook to e5, and now Stockfish simplifies the game by trading off the queens, and now has this situation. Rook to h1 has now the supported passer on the h file, with the support of the bishop, of course, with the support of the rook. This is now, I think, a completely winning endgame here for white. Leela tried to battle here with rook to e2. Stockfish pushed the pawn further. We have a check, again a new check, again after a couple checks. Leela is trying now to move the rook to d4, and of course tries maybe to pick up the bishop on c4. But now Stockfish continues with the move h6. We have king to c7. We have a rook to d1, trying to trade off more pieces. Rook to d1, rook to d1, king to b6. The king is getting closer to the action. A rook to a1 here by Stockfish, attacking this pawn on a2. And we have now a5. We have king to c3, and now rook to h4. You have to play now the game like this. If you play something like king to c5, the problem is now you get bishop to d3. If you play rook to h4, then we have h7, and the bishop is connected to the pawn. We'll simply pick up this one, and eventually we'll promote the pawn here on h8. So you have to play rook to h4 in this particular position, so there's simply no time to get your king closer to the action. So in the game rook to a2, we have rook to h6. Still a tricky position, because still you see black has 3 pawns for the bishop, but it's of course not the optimal position of these pawns. If these pawns maybe would be somewhere here disconnected, if they wouldn't be messed up, if it wouldn't be doubled here on the f file, maybe black could have some drawing chances, but not in this position. Every of this pawn is simply a weak pawn. It can be attacked very easily, so it's still of course a messed up game here for black. So in the game rook to b2, a check, attacking on this pawn. Here Stockfish covers, takes out now also the pawn here. We have king to d8, rook to a4. Very important move to get the rook on f4, and then also to pick up here the pawn on f5. So we have king to e7, rook to f4. We have rook to h1, rook to f5. Here Leela gets the rook closer to the action, bishop to f1, and after rook to e1, we have king to b5, and Stockfish is now also trying to include the king into the attack. It's not so easy, of course, because you're always vulnerable to some checks on the first rank, and still you have to also worry about your bishop. But you see now the beautiful technique here by Stockfish. First, after rook to b1, king to c6 was played, rook to c1, king to b6. Now if we play check, of course we can cover. We have now the move f6 here by Leela. We have bishop to b5, rook to c2, bishop to c6, and you see now Stockfish found the plan how to include the king into the attack. So rook to a2, we have rook to h5, king to d8. Now Stockfish cuts off any potential activity by black's queen. We have rook to b2. We have now again this idea, bishop to b5, covering everything. We have f5, and now a brilliant move here by Stockfish, rook to b7. This move allows, of course, white to protect the bishop, and now from this point on, white can play much more freely with the king, especially against this pawn on d6. We have now the move f4, we have king to c6, we have king to e8, now king to d6 comes with a check, we have king to f8, king to e6, now rook to h2, rook to f7 check, and now after a couple more moves, the position was like this, rook to g6, still we have this passer, so there's nothing that can be done. So king to h7, we have bishop to d3, there are now even some discovered check possibilities. We have rook to d1, bishop to f5, we have rook to e1, king to f6, rook to e8. Here after this discovered check, Leela step back here to h8, king to f7, we have king to e7, d takes e7, and in this position Leela LCZero resigned. So great game, I think. Really interesting ideas of the Taimanov Sicilian, especially in these lines where Stockfish kept it calm, tried to open fast, tried to open diagonals against the king, never really was worried about this attacking possibilities by black on the queen side. Stockfish played great defensive ideas, so in my opinion, really an interesting game for those who are maybe have trouble to beat the Taimanov Sicilian. I think it's a quite instructive game. So okay, again, congratulations to the developers of the Stockfish 15 engine. It's really great. It's still, of course, the best engine in the world, but we have seen it was a tough call because Leela LCZero was in the lead in one moment of the event. Leela played really great chess in some of these direct duels when they have to play two same games with the same opening, of course, once with the white pieces, but then the second time with the black pieces. We have seen then in some of these pairings, Leela LCZero wins many of this openings. So still, Stockfish is not the best engine in any opening. So see, there are simply some of these openings that simply fit for Leela LCZero, but we can agree, of course, that still Stockfish is the best engine, and it won a new TCEC season. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed this season. I really enjoyed it a lot because it was so far one of the most interesting seasons so far. In the previous seasons, it was simply pure domination. Now at least we have some kind of attention here. In my opinion, very beautiful event we have followed. So okay, if you want to see more about the TCEC season 24 and more of this top engine games, check out our coverage. Here's the link of our computer chess games. If you like it, I think you can have also great preparation, particular openings and particular sidelines of openings. And if you like this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.